I thought my daughter's imaginary friend was harmless. Now I need some advice. Kids, snot-nosed, drooling, curious little monsters. I never understood why anyone had them. I was firmly anti-children for the majority of my life, and then one day I peed on a stick and my world changed forever. Such an innocuous action that had such a huge impact. I was blessed with an easy baby. The terrible twos never hit me either. Only recent have I really felt the stress and pressure of motherhood, and things have taken an unexpected turn. Eliza has been the sole reason for my existence for a wonderful, snot-filled 6 years now, and I wouldn't trade her for anything. Her dad didn't stick around. It's just been me and her against the world, and that's how I've liked it. Her little personality grows every day. She's a confident and sassy little girl. She gives the best hugs if you know her, but she understands stranger danger too. I've taught her well. That's why I wasn't worried when she first mentioned Susie. To be honest, I was excited that she'd gotten smart enough to craft her very own imaginary friend. Sure, there's a certain creep factor when your kid walks up to you, eyes wide, and announces that someone is already playing Dolly Tea Party with them in their room. But I tried to see the creative side. She was trying to establish some independence, and I wasn't about to squash her spirit, so I played along. I asked her what she liked to play with Susie, how they became friends, and what Susie liked to eat. She gave all the typical answers: hide and seek, in the back garden, and cake. It was the cake that confirmed. What kid wouldn't want an extra piece of cake that they could blame on a made-up person? Most adults wouldn't turn that down, so I joked about where Susie might be hiding. I set an extra plate out at dinner, gaining only an embarrassed eye roll, and I baked a cake and sent Eliza to school with 2 pieces. I enjoyed the little game. When she came home, there was still a piece left in her lunchbox, untouched. I know it probably sounds like I was reading too much into it, but that piece of cake shouldn't have been there. Not even a bite or a sticky finger mark in sight. Didn't Susie want her cake, honey? Susie doesn't go to school, mummy. That's silly. She's too big. That was the first time ever that something my daughter had said sent a chill down my spine. Too big, like a giant, or like someone that was too old for school. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something didn't feel right. I tried to pry for a while, but she shut me down in typical childlike fashion with a long-winded story about her dolls and why she needed the red-haired one next. I tried to write it off. The next time Susie came up in conversation, only 2 days later, wasn't so easy to ignore. What happened to your hair, Eliza? I asked, noting the complicated fishtail braid that I'd never been dexterous enough to successfully create in my own hair, let alone her fine locks. Susie did it for me. Isn't it pretty, mummy? Taken aback, I grappled in my mind with the likelihood that my 6-year-old daughter had managed to stumble on a complicated do like that. All the YouTube videos in the world couldn't teach that to a kid her age. It just wasn't feasible. Heart pounding and fake smile plastered on my face, I skulked towards Eliza's bed, prepared to open a can of whoop-ass on Susie. I don't know what I expect. Some sort of giant ghost child or a closet monster. Come to life, maybe? I know for sure I wasn't expecting the room to be empty bar a pile of dolls on the floor. As I entered, I damn near had a heart attack. I felt stupid. It was a plat. Just a stupid plat. And an imaginary friend. My kid was talented. I should have been celebrating. I'd spent hours on parenting sites and mum's forums, and so many of them said that at some point their kid had said or done something creepy and scared the living fuck out of them. It was normal, right? I suppose all that time raising her on my own, I had no one to sound off with. I couldn't come up with an explanation, so I buried my discomfort, labeling it paranoia. I wish I hadn't. Things were quiet for a few days, and then around a week after the hair incident, Susie upped her game. Eliza woke me screaming. I ran to her room to find her sobbing on the bed, clutching her battered stuffed rabbit. Roger, what's wrong, honey? I sat on the bed and wrapped an arm around her, pulling her in close as I kissed her forehead and wiped her tears. She spoke with a broken voice, punctuated with tiny whimpers. Susie wouldn't let me sleep. She kept saying I had to go with her, but I'm tired and I'm going to Jessica's house tomorrow for dinner. Shoot, I'd forgotten about Jessica. I was supposed to call her mother and warn her about Eliza's allergy. Is Susie here now? I can have a word with her for you if you want. I grinned at my daughter, ready to play the protective mother to an open space if needed. Susie ran away. She doesn't want you to see her. Why wouldn't she want me to see her? Because you might get angry. Why would I be angry? Eliza looked at me uncomfortably and itched at her arm over the top of her pajama sleeve. Gently, I wiggled the fabric up to the elbow. She was trying to drag me with her, but I didn't want to go. Her bottom lip quivered. 3 claw marks. I don't know how else to describe them. They weren't cuts. They were gouges. How the fuck were there claw marks on my kid? They were deep red and bloody. I started to panic. I couldn't keep the calm facade for Eliza's sake, despite trying. Soon, there were a symphony of sirens headed towards my house. Police, ambulance. I begged for anyone who would respond. I must have sounded batshit crazy on the phone, babbling about a malevolent imaginary friend. We spent the night at the station after Eliza got thoroughly checked by a doctor who was baffled by her wounds. They questioned me and her separate and put us up in a hotel for the night while they canvassed the area. They found nothing. I should have known that the lack of success would turn their attention to me. From an outsider's perspective, it really did look bad. Injured kid and a paranoid mother. I'd have flagged me up too. They let us back home the next day on the condition we checked in with a social worker every week. Eliza's play date with Jessica was cancelled, needless to say. Sometime past 3 weeks. 3 visits from social services. 0 visits from Susie. I should have been elated. My problem had gone away and the social worker could see that I wasn't hurting my kid. Things were going well, right? Unfortunate that wasn't the case. Eliza had become withdrawn. She missed her friend, but had become incredibly scared of her too. She didn't want to play with real friends, and she barely slept, trying to keep her tired little eyes awake with all her might. I wondered if she was suffering from night terrors, but the doctor wasn't convinced that the symptoms matched. The highs, claw marks just threw all logical explanations out the window. I saw the contempt in his eyes when he looked at me. I knew exactly what he thought. I encouraged her to draw. She wasn't her usual creative self, but she managed multiple scrawlings of Susie, each drawn more furiously than the last. They just worried me even more. Eliza's image of the imaginary friend resembled an adult woman, with long dark hair and only 3 fingers on each hand, all clawed. The eyes were always scribbled out with intense pressure. I spent time on the phone to doctors, psychiatrists and counselors. I made appointments, but none of them were acting quick enough. I couldn't afford to go private, even if I'd sold every belonging we had, so I was a slave to the waiting lists. With an ever-shrinking child, I took action. I couldn't rely on the notion that Eliza was unwell, regardless of logical thought. Those claw marks had been real, and I couldn't risk her getting hurt again. I hadn't felt safe at home since that night, so I set up cameras all over the house. It raised an eyebrow when I mentioned it to the social worker, but I didn't care. If there was a Susie, I wanted to catch her. I sat and reviewed the footage. Every day, I would speed it up, and even the hint of a breeze would have me scrutinizing a section of recording for hours. I didn't let Eliza see what I was doing. I didn't want to frighten the poor girl anymore. For weeks, nothing happened. Then last night, I woke to another scream. Eliza couldn't stop. She screamed for so long, I thought her lungs were going to give out. I ran as fast as I could, and the room was empty. Just my catatonic daughter screaming in distress. Where is she? She ran away. Eliza sobbed, raising an arm. I ran to the window frantically, Eliza pointing in that direction, but there wasn't anyone outside. I started to wonder if maybe I was believing her too strongly. What if me playing along had just made her ill? There were no marks this time, no evidence of anyone. I tucked her in and slept on the floor beside. I don't think either of us slept a wink. I reviewed the footage this morning. Eliza was adorable, hair in a mess across the pillow, sleeping soundly. She needed it so desperately. It made me emotional. Watching my baby like that, all the worries melted away until her sash window slid open. She jolted awake as what looked like 3 dirty fingernails wrapped around from the bottom of the window frame and scraped against the glass. Couldn't believe what I was seeing. I can't describe how it felt watching, knowing that I even considered that she was making it up. Eliza screamed just seconds before Susie would have reached her, just before those dirty nails would have pierced her skin. The entity even took the time to look at the camera with her hollowed out sockets. Susie was taunting me. I called the police, handed the footage over. They looked shocked, like they didn't know what to say. I'd given them a scene out of a horror movie and begged for their help. It must have been an interesting day at the office for them. They searched my house and the area around it and put us up in the same hotel as before, this time with a police car parked outside. That's where me and Eliza are spending the night. I wish they'd done more, but realistically, what can they? Where are they even supposed to start? My kid's traumatized, and I can't tell her it's going to be okay. I don't have a fucking clue who or what Susie is or what she wants. I just know that right now, we're locked in a bathroom avoiding it. Me, Eliza, and Roger, the stuffed rabbit. When she came an hour ago, Eliza's screams didn't work like before. Susie's nails are still scraping against the locked hotel window. It's a bone-chilling sound. Every time I dial the police, I get a busy tone. Eliza's been screaming for so long now.